Today on Spooky Villages, time waits for no one. Guys, what's up? It is Doug, and welcome to another edition of Spooky Villages. Today I have the Lemax Spooky Town Timewarp Clockworks, and this is going to be fun to talk about. This is a building, I got this from Lemax. They sent this out as a media piece for review, so thank you to them for that. This can be had at Michael's this year and at all your Lemax Spooky Town dealers. So here's the box, guys. You can see it's not an exclusive piece to anybody, so it's got a general Spooky Town box. It's a big boy. Just show you really quick here inside. It's got the standard Lemax Spooky Town cardboard, the kind of the molding that they've had. So that's what it looks like here, and you have the power supply, which is included on top of the box here. So let's get into the box and talk about the Clockworks. All right, guys, here it is out of the box. Let's go around here. So note here, just real fast, this is a lighter building. It doesn't feel super plasticky or anything, but it does feel lighter, and I do notice a lot of like stickers on it. You can kind of see that, so just an FYI on that. Let's go around here. This is one of the most surprising buildings of the year for me because whenever I had, seen these, I thought it was kind of a fun thing, and it seemed like a super niche thing, and it's not something I really am that interested in, theming-wise, but in actually seeing this in person, and weirdly enough, with the soundtrack makes this building, with what's going on here, so much better, actually, I think, than it is. And it has great lighting and some things, which I'll talk about the lighting here in just a minute. But really quick on the back of it here, the power goes in the back. You can turn on the sound on or off there as you turn on the piece. You can turn up the volume or not. So you can run it silent if you want. Speaking of that, there's a lot of animation here. And this one actually runs pretty quiet. You're going to hear at the end of this video when I do the lights and sound, especially for all the clocks here that are ticking, it is quite quiet comparatively to what it could be. So that's nice. So the theme of it. The theme of it is both simple and difficult. The theme of it here, this is a clock shop. So if you want to just be very simple with that, put it in like a monster town area. But it's a really interesting kind of vibe that this piece gives. So it's a clock shop, but you also have a little bit of I don't know what, almost like interdimensional type of stuff, like, because in here, this is really cool. There's like bats, and you have bats in there. I'll put a picture up if you can't see this really well here, but it also kind of pulses, and there's like an explosion behind it. And the whole, I guess, overarching vibe here is like the Doomsday Clock, right? And if you're not familiar with what the Doomsday Clock is, basically it's scientists can set the time, how they view it, as depending what's going on in the world geopolitically and other things that factor into it, they can move the clock up or down, and it's supposed to be how close we are to midnight being, Armageddon, basically nuclear Armageddon and end of the world. Those of you who are Iron Maiden fans, the famous song 2 Minutes to Midnight, that's what it's referencing. There's various things in music and pop culture that reference like the Doomsday Clock and 2 minutes to midnight, whatever, minutes to midnight. That's what it is. And so I like that. I'm a history nerd, and some like Cuban Missile Crisis and some other things where the Doomsday Clock has been, promptly, I guess, if not involved, brought up. That's interesting to me. So it's interesting that inside, if there's like an explosion going on and bats and stuff, I think what it's referencing is basically, it's like inside here, the world is ending, and it's about to explode out because of the Doomsday Clock. Or like this one, it has an actual, like a mystical Doomsday Clock, because the real Doomsday Clock is really just a figure, right? All that is it's basically scientists trying to bring attention to what's going on in the world geopolitically. Boy, I did not mean to get into this kind of a discussion here. This is hilarious, talking about a Halloween piece, and we're getting into this kind of discussion. But I guess maybe that's what's so interesting here, is because that is, it's hard to talk about this piece without getting into that discussion, because that is very much the basis for it, and I think that's fun. And so you have all sorts of stuff going on here. There's, clocks going on here. I like how over here in particular, you have this one here that's just rotating. You have an internal scene. On the sides here, you have clocks going on. I'll show you what, oops, sorry there, I clicked on that or touched that there. Up here you have the main one that's kind of going on here, and I think that's also something interesting here is that this piece, these two on the sides that are right here, I mean, we see side animation on pieces, but I guess it's interesting. These are very, like completely on the side pieces. And so if you put this display somewhere else, like on a street corner or something, like if you angled it here in like your town, it's kind of cool that you do get actually animation that it's designed to be on the ends of the building, not like on an angle, but actually on the ends of it here. So let's show you what it looks like lit up. This is another piece. Lemax has done a very good job of lighting up this year, and I like how overall you have, the one main solid color. There's a little bit of other stuff going on here too. We'll talk about some of that in a minute, but the main color here I think works well, that you have one big theme of it, and I actually like the color of it because if you want to brighten up those clocks and everything, it looks good. You have the pulsing there, as I talked about, which is kind of a cool little add. All the clocks going on, and something I really like here is you have lightning. Lightning adds a lot to almost any Halloween piece, in my opinion, because it draws attention to it. And just, a stormy night kind of, and lightning and storms and everything is kind of scary in general, and it adds to the vibe of a piece. But when you take this with the soundtrack, because you do have some of the thunder and everything, I really like that. And let's just talk about the soundtrack here. So I'm going to play it at the end. This is one of the best soundtracks Lemax has ever done, insofar as how it enhances a piece. The clocks and everything here, I don't know, this is one you're going to want to just run, over your trick-or-treat village. I'm not saying it's a great soundtrack by that, metric, or, if it's something that you think you would want to be putting on all the time. But the thing is, though, as far as enhancing this building right here, it does a really good job of ratcheting up the tension and really the scariness. And the clocks and the theming with that, and also the thunder, it's actually pretty unnerving to me. And maybe that's just because, I have a propensity to, the whole Doomsday Clock thing is something that's just interesting to me. And like Armageddon and that kind of thing. So maybe that's just me. But the way this soundtrack like ratchets up the drama and everything and really plays into the piece and what's going on here, I really do think it enhances it, and I like it. You have an internal scene here that looks really good, and I also like how the front there, like the front desk, you have the the skeleton clockmakers. I think that's fun. And then above the Reaper here, you also have the sign up there, "Time waits for no one," which maybe it's because I'm getting older that's creepier. I guess maybe that's I'm getting really meta here. Maybe that's the really scary thing just in general with all of this, is that time marching on is one of the scariest things. So yeah, so let's talk about theming here. Where would you put this? I have to do my disclaimer. Amusement park, this would really work well for that, I guess, almost as a standalone thing. It's not really a ride or anything, but you could put this in a monster town as well. That's probably what I would suggest, is if you had a spooky town that's more of a monster town versus a realistic one. This is not a very realistic looking building. So I would put it probably in a monster town. So I think that's the thing. You're kind of limited on your themes with this. Because it's got all the stuff going on, though, this would be fun to have by itself. Also, if you're someone that has a nice clock, like either a grandfather clock, or maybe you have a watch collection or something and you have a little case or something with watches, this would be fun to put by that because of the whole time theme for it. So that is the Timewarp Clockworks, guys. It's actually a very hard name to say. By the way, try that 5 times fast. So, it's tough to theme. This building isn't for everybody, but I actually think it's a lot of fun, and that it is, at least for me, kind of creepy, and it kind of works. And I have to say, because I've not mentioned it up to this point, another thing that this reminds me of is I'm a roller coaster junkie. This reminds me of the Time Traveler roller coaster that's at Silver Dollar City, which is a lot of fun. It's that of, it's like old-timey time travel. I'll put some pictures and stuff up here of the roller coaster and like the station. So that is one of my favorite roller coasters in the world as a coaster junkie. I absolutely love it in Silver Dollar City. So that also, this piece weirdly pings my nostalgia for that. It's a very hyper-specific thing, I know, but some of you out there who are theme park junkies, and I know there are some of you that I'm friends with, this will remind you of that. So in wrapping up, yeah, it's a fun piece. It's not for everybody, but I think for kind of I won't say a wacky theme, because it's not a wacky theme, but for kind of a crazy or interesting or niche theme, whatever you want to call it, I think the execution here is actually really, really good for the idea. So, sometimes I feel like with Halloween Villages, you have a strong idea and the execution is just not as great. This one is, I don't want to call it a bad idea because that's not fair. I don't think that's fair to it. I think you have a tougher idea probably to actually execute, with the idea, but the execution on this is great, and the execution really makes the building on this. So it's not for everybody, but I think a lot of folks who, if this if this vibes with you, I think you are going to like it. So, and it's got a great soundtrack, which I'm going to play in a second. So thank you always for watching, guys, and the comments, the subscriptions. I appreciate you all. Here is the Timewarp Clockworks with the lights and sound.